If history teaches us one thing, terrible things happen to kings.
Throughout history, royalty has been both revered and scrutinized, with their lives often becoming the stuff of legend. Yet, beneath the crown and the opulence, they were, after all, human, susceptible to the same ailments as the common folk. The Middle Ages and other times witnessed many kings and queens grappling with diseases, some of which shaped the courses of their reigns and their kingdoms. This video delves into the afflictions that plagued these monarchs, shedding light on their mortal struggles amidst their immortal legacies, King Henry VIII and syphilis. The figure of King Henry VIII stands tall in the annals of English history, not only for his 6 marriages and the consequent religious upheaval, but also for the mystery that surrounds his deteriorating health in the later years of his life. While the king's erratic behavior, physical issues, and multiple miscarriages suffered by his wives are well documented, the precise nature of his illness remains a subject of historical debate. Syphilis, a sexually transmitted disease caused by the bacterium Treponema pallidum, has been one of the conditions most commonly linked with King Henry VIII's medical history. First recorded in Europe at the end of the 15th century, syphilis was known for its myriad manifestations which could affect almost every organ system. Its symptoms ranged from sores and rashes in the initial stages to severe complications in the nervous system, cardiovascular system, and even mental deterioration in its tertiary phase. In analyzing the case for Henry VIII having syphilis, one can look at the physical and behavioral symptoms he displayed, especially in his later life. He had chronic leg ulcers, which persisted for over a decade, causing him immense pain. These ulcers, resistant to treatment, align with the type of chronic sores seen in tertiary syphilis. Additionally, Henry's noted mood swings, bouts of anger, and possible cognitive decline could be attributed to the neurological effects of the disease. The reproductive history of Henry's wives further adds fuel to the syphilis speculation. Miscarriages, stillbirths, and neonatal deaths were sadly frequent in the Tudor lineage. Syphilis, when passed from mother to fetus, can result in miscarriages, premature births, or the birth of syphilitic infants. Queen Anne Boleyn, one of Henry's most famous wives, had a series of miscarriages, and one of the babies was reportedly born with physical deformities, a possible indicator of congenital syphilis. However, pinning down syphilis as the sole culprit of Henry's troubles is not without its challenges. First, there's no definitive record of the initial symptoms of syphilis, such as the characteristic chancre or the secondary rash in any of the king's medical reports. Furthermore, other conditions like diabetes or deep vein thrombosis might also explain the persistent leg ulcers. Moreover, the argument for syphilis based on reproductive failures has its flaws. Miscarriages and infant mortalities were unfortunately common during the Tudor period due to a plethora of reasons, ranging from Rh incompatibility to other infections and genetic abnormalities. To attribute them solely to syphilis would be an oversimplification. King Richard III and scoliosis. King Richard III, the last Plantagenet king of England, is often remembered for his brief reign and his portrayal as a hunchbacked villain in Shakespeare's eponymous play. This image of Richard as a deformed monarch has been deeply entrenched in popular culture and historical accounts. However, recent discoveries, particularly the exhumation of his remains in 2012, have shed light on the true nature of his physical condition, scoliosis. Scoliosis is a condition wherein the spine curves abnormally to the side. It can manifest in various forms and degrees of severity, affecting individuals differently. For King Richard III, it seems he had a severe form of adolescent-onset idiopathic scoliosis, which means the cause of the curvature was unknown, and it started after the age of 10. This type of scoliosis would have developed progressively as Richard grew into adulthood. When Richard's remains were discovered beneath a Leicester parking lot, extensive scientific examinations were undertaken. The skeleton revealed a pronounced curvature of the spine, which was consistent with right thoracic scoliosis. This curvature would have made Richard's right shoulder appear visibly higher than the left, which might have led to the descriptions of him having an uneven or hunchbacked appearance. The discovery of these remains allowed for a more nuanced understanding of how scoliosis might have affected King Richard's daily life. Contrary to the popular image of a severely hunched monarch struggling with his deformity, Richard's scoliosis likely did not cause him any significant pain or limit his mobility drastically. In fact, evidence from the skeletal remains suggests that he had a relatively muscular physique and engaged in vigorous physical activity, including horse riding and combat. His condition might have posed some challenges in wearing armor or wielding certain weapons, but it did not render him incapable of leading armies or participating in battles. The portrayal of Richard III as a hunchbacked tyrant, especially in Shakespeare's dramatization, might have had less to do with historical accuracy and more with politics and propaganda. The Tudors, who succeeded the Plantagenets, had a vested interest in painting Richard in a negative light to justify their takeover and establish their legitimacy. A physical deformity, in the eyes of the populace of that era, was often associated with moral corruption, making the depiction of Richard as a hunchbacked villain convenient for the Tudor narrative. Queen Mary I and possible endometriosis. Queen Mary I, commonly referred to as Bloody Mary due to her persecution of Protestants, has also been an emblematic figure in the history of England because of her personal tragedies associated with childbearing. While she ascended the throne with high hopes and ambitions, her reign was marred by political unrest, religious upheaval, and profound personal anguish, especially concerning her inability to produce an heir. This inability, combined with her multiple false pregnancies, has led historians and medical experts to speculate that she may have suffered from endometriosis. Endometriosis is a medical condition where tissue resembling the lining inside the uterus, called endometrium, starts to grow outside the uterus. This often painful disorder predominantly involves the ovaries, fallopian tubes, and the tissue lining the pelvis. One of its many consequences can be infertility or difficulty in conceiving, and it can also be linked to painful menstrual periods and chronic pelvic pain. For Mary, the hope and expectation to produce an heir were enormous, not just as a personal ambition, but also as a political necessity. Her marriage to Philip II of Spain was meant to solidify her position and bring about a Catholic heir to the English throne. However, her maternal aspirations were met with despair time and time again. The most heart-wrenching episodes were her phantom pregnancies. On 2 significant occasions, Mary believed she was pregnant, displaying all the signs of an expectant mother, only to have her hopes dashed months later when no child was born. The exact reasons for these phantom pregnancies remain a matter of conjecture, but the symptoms Mary displayed, such as abdominal swelling and the cessation of menstruation, can be congruent with endometriosis. The disease can cause cysts to form, leading to swelling, and can also influence menstrual patterns. Moreover, the intense desire and psychological pressure to conceive can exacerbate physical symptoms, creating a psychosomatic loop of belief and manifestation. Another aspect to consider is the profound pain Mary was known to suffer. Chronic pelvic pain is a hallmark of endometriosis, and there are historical accounts suggesting Mary frequently experienced such discomfort. This pain, coupled with her reproductive struggles, aligns with the symptoms of endometriosis, making it a plausible diagnosis. King Charles II and porphyria. King Charles II, known for restoring the monarchy to the English throne after the bleak period of the Commonwealth, was an emblematic figure in the 17th century history of Britain. His reign was marked by political dynamism, cultural renaissance, and a series of personal health challenges. Among the various health issues he faced, the speculation of him suffering from porphyria stands out, not just for its implications on Charles himself, but for its proposed genetic legacy in the lineage of British royalty. Porphyria is a group of rare genetic disorders that affect the nervous system or skin, and sometimes both. The conditions are characterized by an accumulation of chemical compounds called porphyrins, or porphyrin precursors, which are essential for the function of hemoglobin in the blood. Symptoms can range from skin sensitivity to sunlight and resultant blisters to more severe manifestations like abdominal pain, vomiting, muscle weakness, and even seizures or mental disturbances in acute cases. Looking at the historical accounts of King Charles II's health, there are indications that align with the symptoms of porphyria. Charles experienced episodes of severe abdominal pain, a hallmark symptom of the condition. He also had occasional fits or convulsions, which might be associated with the neurological impacts of acute porphyria. Moreover, There are accounts of the king's urine being colored dark or purplish during his illnesses, another classic sign of the disorder. Beyond Charles II himself, the suspicion of porphyria becomes even more intriguing when one considers the broader royal family tree. The madness of King George III, a descendant of Charles II, has been famously documented with symptoms that strongly suggest acute intermittent porphyria. The bouts of abdominal pain, dark urine, and most notably, the episodes of severe mental disturbance observed in George III align with acute manifestations of the disease. This has led some historians and medical experts to propose that the genetic predisposition for porphyria may have been present in the British royal lineage for centuries, with Charles II being one of the early carriers. King George III and acute intermittent porphyria. King George III, whose reign stretched over some of the most pivotal moments in British history, including the American Revolution, is as much remembered for his political endeavors as he is for his periods of mysterious and profound illness. The narrative of the Mad King deeply permeates historical accounts of his life. Among various hypotheses that have sought to demystify his medical condition, the suggestion that he suffered from acute intermittent porphyria, AIP, remains particularly influential. Acute intermittent porphyria belongs to a group of disorders that result from a buildup of natural chemicals that produce porphyrin in the body. This buildup, specifically in AIP, can lead to a variety of symptoms ranging from abdominal pain and muscle weakness to more neurological ones, such as mood disturbances, hallucinations, and, in pronounced cases, delirium. Evidence suggesting King George III's affliction with AIP is drawn from detailed historical records documenting his symptoms. He endured episodes marked by excruciating abdominal pain, often referred to as colic in contemporary accounts. An equally significant symptom, frequently highlighted, was the darkening of his urine during these bouts of illness, a classic sign of porphyria. Yet it was his altered mental state, characterized by rapid speech, erratic behavior, and at times profound confusion and delusion, that most alarmed the court and the public. When juxtaposed with the clinical features of AIP, King George's symptoms present striking similarities. The constellation of abdominal pain, changes in urine color, and pronounced neuropsychiatric manifestations resonate strongly with acute episodes of AIP. The hereditary nature of porphyria further fuels this theory, especially considering subtle indications of similar conditions appearing in the monarch's lineage. However, the waters of history are rarely clear, and the porphyria theory, despite its allure, is not exempt from skepticism. One must approach historical medical diagnoses with caution, recognizing the inherent limitations. There's the argument, for instance, that the medicines and treatments the king received could themselves be responsible for some of his symptoms. Therapeutic practices of the era often involved the use of compounds like arsenic, known to potentially aggravate symptoms of AIP or even simulate them. Queen Elizabeth I and smallpox. Queen Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, who steered England through a golden age of exploration, arts, and political evolution, was not only an adept ruler, but also a survivor in more ways than one. Among the many challenges she faced during her reign, one personal battle stands out prominently: her confrontation with smallpox. This episode not only threatened her life, but had the potential to shift the trajectory of English history. Smallpox, caused by the variola virus, was one of the most feared diseases of its time, known for its high mortality rate and the disfiguring scars it left on survivors. The disease was characterized by fever, body aches, and the emergence of a distinctive rash that would evolve into pus-filled blisters. Surviving smallpox was akin to a dance with death, and those who emerged on the other side were often marked for life, both physically and in the collective memory of the community. In 1562, a bout of smallpox struck Queen Elizabeth. The kingdom held its breath as the disease took its course, with the court and the populace acutely aware of the implications of the monarch's health. Elizabeth's brush with smallpox was not only a personal crisis, but a national one. The stability of the realm, so closely tied to the well-being of its monarch, hung in the balance. Miraculously, Elizabeth survived. However, the disease left its mark on the previously unblemished complexion of the queen. She bore the scars of her ordeal, a testament to her battle with the dreaded disease. But Elizabeth, ever the astute monarch and master of image crafting, turned adversity into advantage. Instead of shying away or hiding her scars, she wore them as a badge of her resilience, integrating them into her iconic image. The thick white makeup, known as Venetian ceruse, which she famously adorned, served a dual purpose. It not only masked the scars, but also became synonymous with her regal and almost ethereal appearance. But the implications of Elizabeth's encounter with smallpox went beyond cosmetics. Her survival reinforced her image as a divinely chosen leader. In an age where monarchs were seen as God's representatives on earth, surviving such a deadly disease was construed as a sign of divine favor. Elizabeth's recovery from smallpox, therefore, was not just a testament to her physical strength, but also served as a powerful political and religious statement. Furthermore, her bout with the disease heightened awareness about smallpox in the higher echelons of society. While the understanding of diseases and their causes was primitive by modern standards, the visible reminder on the Queen's face made smallpox a topic of discussion and concern in the court and among the elite. This inadvertently laid groundwork for future endeavors in the realm of public health and disease control. King Louis XVI and phimosis. King Louis XVI of France, a pivotal figure in the twilight years of the French monarchy, is often discussed in the context of the political maelstrom that led to the French Revolution. However, beyond the grand canvas of statecraft and revolution, Louis's personal life had its own set of intrigues. Among the lesser-known but significant aspects of his life was a medical condition called phimosis, which is believed to have had profound implications on both his personal relationships and his rule. Phimosis is a condition where the foreskin of the penis cannot be fully retracted over the glands. In adults, this can result in discomfort, pain, or even complications during sexual intercourse. For a monarch like Louis XVI, who was under immense pressure to produce an heir to secure the dynasty's continuation, such a condition was not merely a personal affliction, but a matter of state significance. The early years of Louis's marriage to Marie Antoinette were marked by a noticeable absence of heirs. This led to widespread gossip and speculation, both within the court's confines and among the general populace. A royal couple's inability to conceive became fodder for public debate, and in many ways, a metaphor for the perceived ineffectiveness and impotence of Louis's reign. Rumors spread about the Queen's alleged infidelities and the King's supposed impotence. It's believed that Louis XVI's phimosis was a contributing factor to the initial lack of consummation in the royal marriage. The condition would have made sexual intercourse painful, if not nearly impossible. Given the lack of sophisticated medical understanding at the time, the implications of such a condition on a man's virility and the potential psychological toll it could exact were not fully grasped. However, evidence suggests that Louis eventually sought medical intervention for his condition. Historical accounts indicate that he underwent a surgical procedure to correct his phimosis, a move that would have been fraught with risks given the rudimentary state of 18th century medicine. The procedure, however, appears to have been successful. Following this, the royal couple had 4 children, although only one survived to adulthood: Emperor Claudius and cerebral palsy, or another neurological disorder. Emperor Claudius, one of the most distinguished leaders of ancient Rome, has long been a subject of both admiration and curiosity. Ascending the throne after the infamous reign of Caligula, Claudius brought a semblance of stability to the empire. However, it wasn't just his policies and governance that drew attention, but also his physical condition. From early in his life, Claudius exhibited symptoms that many historians believe were indicative of cerebral palsy or another neurological disorder. Born in 10 BC, Claudius was noted for having a series of health issues that made him stand out from his imperial relatives. He had a limp, his movements were often described as clumsy, and he had difficulty speaking clearly. Historians recount episodes where Claudius would drool and his nose would run uncontrollably when he got excited. These descriptions, when viewed through a modern medical lens, strongly resonate with the symptoms of cerebral palsy, a condition resulting from damage to the brain, usually occurring before, during, or shortly after birth. However, cerebral palsy is just one of the theories regarding Claudius's condition. Given the broad range of neurological disorders and the rudimentary state of ancient medicine, it's conceivable that he could have been affected by another ailment. Some speculate that Claudius may have suffered from Tourette syndrome, given his twitchy movements and the uncontrolled sounds he often made. Yet another theory posits that he might have had a form of dystonia, a movement disorder that causes involuntary muscle contractions. Regardless of the precise nature of his condition, Claudius's health played a significant role in shaping his early life and his eventual rise to power. As a child and young man, he was largely sidelined from the central affairs of the Julio-Claudian dynasty. Many in the imperial court saw him as weak and incapable, a perception reinforced by his physical challenges. However, this ostracism might have been a blessing in disguise. While other members of his family were embroiled in political intrigues and often met with violent ends, Claudius was spared, largely due to his perceived ineffectiveness. Yet, when the opportunity arose, Claudius defied all expectations. Following the assassination of Caligula, he was declared emperor by the Praetorian Guard, and he embarked on a surprisingly effective and stable rule. He showcased a sharp intellect, proving to many that physical ailments did not equate to mental inferiority. His reign saw the expansion of the Roman Empire, significant legal reforms, and public works projects. Tsar Peter III and urological disorders. Tsar Peter III of Russia, though reigning for a mere 6 months, left an indelible mark on the annals of history. Often overshadowed by his illustrious wife, Catherine the Great, who succeeded him following his deposition, Peter's personal and political life was fraught with challenges. Among the many facets of his intriguing biography, a less explored but crucial aspect is his struggle with urological disorders, which had both personal and political ramifications. From early accounts and letters, it becomes apparent that Peter III faced significant urological issues. Reports from courtiers and contemporaries often alluded to his frequent visits to the restroom, discomfort during prolonged sittings, and visible distress related to urinary functions. These symptoms, in today's medical terms, suggest the presence of a urological condition, possibly a chronic bladder ailment or an enlarged prostate, which can cause urinary frequency, urgency, and other related symptoms. This condition didn't merely pose personal discomfort for the Tsar, but also became a point of contention and ridicule in the court. In an era where rulers were expected to embody the pinnacle of health and virility, any deviation from this ideal could be seen as a sign of weakness or divine disfavor. Peter's evident struggles with his urological health provided fodder for his detractors. Whispers and murmurs about his infirmities began circulating, further undermining his already precarious position on the throne. Beyond the physical discomfort and the court gossip, Peter's condition had more profound implications on his personal life, particularly his relationship with Catherine. The couple's well-documented marital discord is often attributed to political and personal differences. However, Peter's health issues could have played a role in their strained intimacy. The Tsarina's own letters and memoirs hint at their lack of a fulfilling conjugal life. And while many factors contributed to this, it's plausible that Peter's urological challenges exacerbated their marital rift. The personal became political when it came to the Russian throne. The pressure to produce heirs was immense, and the royal couple's inability to have more children, they had only one son, the future Paul I, became a significant concern. In an empire where lineage and succession were paramount, Peter's perceived health deficiencies were not just a matter of personal discomfort, but of state stability. Queen Victoria and hemophilia. Queen Victoria, the iconic monarch whose reign symbolized an entire era of British history, bore many titles and accolades. Yet, in addition to her vast political legacy, she also became known as the carrier of a genetic condition that would profoundly impact her descendants and European royalty, hemophilia. Dubbed the royal disease, hemophilia became intrinsically linked with Victoria's lineage, bringing to light the vulnerabilities of even the most powerful families. Hemophilia is a genetic disorder that impairs the body's ability to make blood clots, resulting in prolonged bleeding. This can lead to spontaneous bleeding episodes or extended bleeding following injuries or surgery. The disease is typically passed on through the X chromosome, which means that while females can be carriers, it's usually the male descendants who manifest the symptoms. Victoria's own son, Prince Leopold, was the first recognized royal with the condition. His life was punctuated by frequent and sometimes severe bleeding episodes, which limited his activities and shaped his role in the royal family. Tragically, Leopold's life was cut short at the age of 31 following a cerebral hemorrhage, a direct consequence of his hemophilia. Beyond Leopold, Queen Victoria's legacy as a carrier became evident as her descendants married into various European royal families. Her daughters, Princess Alice and Princess Beatrice, while not displaying symptoms themselves, passed on the hemophilia gene to their offspring. This saw the disease manifest in the Spanish, German, and Russian royal households. Perhaps the most famous case was that of Alexei Romanov, the son of Tsar Nicholas II of Russia and Alexandra, who was Victoria's granddaughter. Alexei's health challenges, coupled with the political turmoil of the time, played a significant role in the decline of the Romanov dynasty. The spread of hemophilia in European royalty was more than a medical phenomenon. It had political and societal implications. At a time when monarchies were viewed as divinely ordained, the presence of a hereditary disease raised uncomfortable questions. Was it a sign of weakness? Was it divine retribution for some perceived transgressions? Such speculations were rife, and they further underscored the vulnerabilities of monarchies in an era of rapid political and societal change.